Hello everyone and welcome to my The Science of YouTube channel. My name is Anjali and I am thrilled to have you join me on this learning journey. Friends, today we are going to learn about the topic function of an ecosystem in ecology part 3. I want to tell you about my content resource initially. I have read PD Sharma's Ecology and Environment book, used Google and other resources to identify the most relevant stuff for you. So friends, let's get started. As I have already told you that today we are going to learn about the functions of an ecosystem. So at first I would like to tell you that I am going to cover up three major points in this particular video, which are as follows. Interconnected system of living and non-living components maintaining balance of life on earth, characterized by energy flow, nutrient cycling and ecological succession, and supports diverse forms of life and influences local and global environmental processes. So friends, now coming to the first slide. The function of an ecosystem is to be a large, open, dynamic system. It can be examined under the three following headings: energy flow, nutrient cycling, and ecological succession. Basically, an ecosystem's job is to keep up a complicated web of connections that allow life in all its forms to endure and thrive. By understanding and preserving these functions, we can ensure the continued health and resilience of our planet diverse ecosystems. Now coming to the next slide. Here we will be learning about the energy flow. So ecosystem helps different species survive and thrive by facilitating the movement of energy across the food web. Sunlight is captured by producers such as plants and transferred into chemical energy that is subsequently transferred to consumers such as herbivores and predators. Means the flow of energy from producer to top consumer is called energy flow. Energy flow is unidirectional. It never flows in a reverse direction, that is from carnivore to herbivore or to producer. Now coming to the next slide. Here we will be learning about the trophic level interaction. In a food web, trophic level interactions are the movement of nutrients and energy between various trophic levels, with primary producers like plants at the base and top predators at the apex. Trophic levels depict the hierarchical placement of creatures in a food web. Energy is transferred from one organism to another through the food chain. So only a portion of the energy is transmitted to the next trophic level, the rest is wasted as heat. So this process keeps going on until the ecosystem's energy finally disappears. So the energy level, it decreases from the first trophic level upwards. The trophic level interactions are essentially for maintaining energy flow and nutrient cycling in an ecosystem. So they influence factors like population sizes, community structure and evolutionary processes. However, human activities like over harvesting, habitat destruction and pollution can disrupt the trophic level interactions, leading to ecological imbalances and decreased ecosystem resilience. Understanding these interactions is crucial for conservation efforts and maintaining healthy, functional ecosystem. Now coming to the next slide. Here we will be learning about the food chain. So a food chain shows how nutrients and energy move through an ecosystem in a linear fashion, highlighting the relationship between animals at different trophic levels through feeding. So primary producers, which are plants or other photosynthetic organisms, are followed by primary consumers, which are herbivores, secondary consumers, which are carnivores who eat herbivores, and high level consumers, which are carnivores that eat other carnivores. In a grassland ecosystem, for instance, a basic food chain could be grass, then grasshopper, then frog, then snake, then wasp. So in this chain, grass, that is primary producer, is consumed by grasshopper, that is primary consumer, which are then eaten by frogs, secondary consumers. Frogs are consumed by snakes, that is tertiary consumers, which are finally hunted by hawks, that is quaternary consumers. So food chain shows how energy flows from one organism to another and how each species relies on other for survival. However, real world food webs are often more complex with multiple interlinked food chains and multiple feeding relationships between organisms. Friends, I want you to note down this point that energy decreases at each trophic level due to losses from metabolic processes and energy is stored in tissues that are not consumed. So this means that higher level consumers require larger populations of lower level consumers to sustain themselves, which influences population sizes and community structure in an ecosystem. Now coming to the next slide. Here we will be learning about the types of food chain. So there are various kinds of food chains and each are symbolizes a unique energy flow pattern inside an ecosystem. But there are two primary kinds of food chains found in nature. The first one is grazing food chain and the second one is detritus food chain. So a grazing food chain, it starts with primary producers, plants or algae, and moves up to herbivores, primary consumers, and then to carnivores, secondary and higher level consumers. This is a common type of food chain in terrestrial and aquatic ecosystem. For example, in terrestrial ecosystem, grass is eaten by caterpillar, which is eaten by lizard, and lizard is eaten by snake. So in aquatic ecosystem, phytoplanktons, that is primary producers, is eaten by zooplanktons, which is eaten by fishes, and fishes are eaten by pelicans. Now coming to the next one, that is detritus food chain. So a detritus food chain is based on the consumption of detritus or dead organic matter. It starts with the detrivores, that is organisms that feed on detritus, and moves up to carnivores that consume detrivores. This type of food chain is particularly important in ecosystem with high amounts of dead plant and animal matter like forest and wetlands. Now coming to the next slide. Here we will be learning about the food web. So a food web is a more complex representation of the feeding relationship between organisms in an ecosystem. Unlike a food chain which shows a linear flow of energy, a food web depicts a network of interconnected food chains, reflecting the real world complexity of an ecosystem. So certain species may be connected to more than one producer or consumer in a food web and they may occupy different trophic levels. So this implies that depending on what it consumes, a single species may function as both a primary and a secondary consumer. So food webs also show how many habitats are interrelated within an ecosystem. Say for example, a food web might show how energy flows from a forest to a nearby stream as insects from the forest are consumed by fish in the stream. So moreover, food webs are not static. They can change over time due to factors like seasonal variations, environmental changes or human interventions. So a shift in one component of the food web can have an impact on other species and their interactions throughout the entire system. Now coming to the next slide. Here we will be learning about the ecological pyramids. So an ecological pyramid illustrates the movement of biomass or energy across the various trophic levels in an ecosystem. It is sometimes referred to as an energy pyramid or a trophic pyramid. It illustrates how biomass or the proportionate amount of energy varies with trophic level and how it decreases as it moves up the food chain. Now coming to the next slide, here we will be learning about the different types of ecological pyramids. So there are three main types of ecological pyramids. The first one is pyramid of energy or productivity. The second one is pyramid of number and the third one is pyramid of biomass. So now coming to the first one, that is pyramid of energy. So an energy pyramid works well for comparing the functional roles of the trophic level in an ecosystem because solar energy is converted to chemical and heat energy at each trophic level. And because energy is lost at each transfer to a new trophic level, an energy pyramid represents the law of thermodynamics. Hence, the pyramid is always upward with a large energy base at the bottom. Now coming to the next type, that is pyramid of number. So the quantity of energy available at each level is depicted in this pyramid. The most common representation of it is an upright pyramid with producers at the base holding the most energy and lower quantities at higher trophic level. This is because energy is wasted at each trophic level as a result of metabolic activities and energy that remains in tissues after consumption. Depending upon the size and biomass, the pyramid of numbers may not always be upright and may even be completely inverted. Now coming to the third one, that is pyramid of biomass. So the pyramid of biomass is a graphical representation of the amount of living matter at each trophic level in an ecosystem. So friends, from my BSc and up to this point, I am pursuing a master's degree in botany, and I am aware that the mass of pyramid often declines from the lower trophic levels to the higher ones. It is up to you to investigate and determine whether the biomass pyramid is merely inverted or it is also upward. And please feel free to put your observation in the comment section. I will be grateful to hear from you. So thank you friends for choosing to spend your valuable time with me on my YouTube channel. Friends, kindly feel free to provide any suggestions you may have for modification of my video. I would be glad to consider your suggestions.